The Rialto Theater was built in 1924 by a Greek immigrant, James Heliotis, and he and his family owned this theater until well into the 1960s. At the time it was built, it was really considered the premier theater of Fort Wayne. And as you enter the theater through the main doorways, on the left you would find that there was a storefront that would have consisted of something to the effect of what we'd consider a pharmacy or drugstore of the past. And on the right would be the place we're sitting in now, which had seen over the course of its life a number of different manifestations. It was most recently a tobacco road was what it was called, so it was a tobacco shop. And then as you enter through the theater doors, directly ahead of you would have been the main auditorium, where I believe it was a 700-seat auditorium. And it was beautiful. It was Art Deco. It was built in 1924, so it would be reflective of those times. And on the ceiling there is a convex dome on the roof that was very sparkly, and there's this blue, kind of greenish aqua blue tone to it even still today. And then directly ahead, of course, would have been the screen. And so in those early days, it would have shown a lot of the vaudeville and silent movies and so forth. But then throughout the course of its life, well into 60s, it would have shown a lot of the premiere films of the day. We still get a lot of people from the neighborhood, and even those who have moved away, that will come through and say, I remember coming here as a kid, or I had my first date here, or...
My name is Trudy Gevers. I retired from Southside High School, just up the street from the Rialto. At the school, I worked with a lovely and determined woman named Connie Wilson. Connie once shared with me that in the 1950s, she took her young sons to a movie at the Rialto Theater. After buying tickets, the family walked to the front and center of the theater on the main floor, and they took their seats. In short order, an usher approached and told them, people of color are not allowed in the main part of the theater. You must move to the balcony. Connie firmly but kindly replied, we do not intend to move to the balcony. She and her sons stayed in their seats right on the main floor of the theater. They were allowed to enjoy the whole movie where no people of color had sat before. Connie had the spunk to bring the fight for equal rights to Fort Wayne.
So there is a lot of history, that's reflective of even our country that this Rialto holds within it. And then in the 1960s, it was sold by the family to a company, I believe, based out of Chicago. And during that era, for the next, 10 or 15 years, it showed films that would have been considered maybe the ethnic minority films, martial arts, and then what the African American community in cinemas were putting out. And I think one person told me he saw Shaft here. And then it was sold again, and that time it became a XXX theater. There was a pornography, and they were starting to produce their own pornography out of this site. But one by one, those places were closed, and the Rialto was the one to close last. And that was in 1989. And from that point until 2003, when the organization purchased it, it sat unattended to